Robert Greene, the author of Mastery, expounds on the goals and the meanings of apprenticeship. In order to get a full vision of what he's talking about, you really need to read what he says. You'll be able to find this information in a link which is attached to the description. But recall that the goal of apprenticeship is not about money or position or titles or even earning a diploma. It is simply the transformation of the mind and the character. It is the first transformation which occurs before mastery. Apprenticeship falls into three different phases. And when we look at these, we want to see that these are essential steps in order to gain complete mastery. They may even overlap one another. So these steps are phase 1, which is a deep observation, which is a passive mode. The skills acquisition, which is the practice mode, and experimentation, which is more of an active mode. Now keep in mind that the apprenticeship is really going to come in many different forms, and it can happen in one place over several years, or maybe it's several different positions in different places. We want to look at how a compound apprenticeship can involve many different skills and even a mixture of a formal school such as graduate school and some practical experiences. However, in all of these cases, we want to think of an apprenticeship as a role or a stepping stones to mastery. And through these steps, we get the weight and the information and the knowledge that pertains to our field. Within phase 1, that deep observation or that passive mode is really when one first introduces or joins a new environment or a new career. This is when we look above our individual needs and our desires, and we want to really observe and absorb what is really there. This is a time when we look at what the rules and the procedures are that govern success within this field, and we're going to make it a matter of common sense. We're going to look at the culture. We're going to look at what's important. And we also want to take some time to really reflect on what's going on. We want to learn and record the knowledge, and not just the knowledge, but acknowledge the reality of what it's going to take to really be able to gain that full mastery of a topic or an information. So there are really several critical reasons why we need to follow this step. We need to know the environment inside and out. We also have to be able to observe this unfamiliar environment so that we can realize what we don't know and what we do know. We call this an information gap. We want to be able to develop those skills. And then lastly, we want to be able to customize ourselves to observing first before jumping in. Phase 2 is the skills acquisition phase. This is where we practice, remembering that in order to really master something or to become part of a master, you need to have approximately 10,000 hours of practice. In many times, or in older times, an apprenticeship or an apprentice would enter into apprenticeship by signing a contract for approximately 7 years. At the end of that apprenticeship time, they would either pass a master test or produce a masterpiece of work. This is a phenomenal amount of time and a phenomenal amount of information which needs to be learned during this time. As we look at this, remember that this is when we really develop great practice, which becomes more interesting and becomes easier. And as you learn this, you first begin with one little skill, and it's going to really be frustrating because you don't know it very well. But as you really begin to understand something, then you'll be able to move on to acquiring another skill. Lastly, phase 3 is part of our active mode, the experimentation. And this really is the shortest phase because this is where we take on more responsibility. We initiate a project or we do work that really exposes how we are a master. We're going to learn and to see how we have used all of our information and based them on foundational principles, and then experiment with these foundational principles to assert a style of our own. So be sure that you look it over. Learn how you can use apprenticeship within your own field.